A miniature of Freud's office in Vienna. A brief walk through the first psychoanalytic office. Hello, my name is Nurit Yedlin. I am a clinical psychologist. I would like to present to you a gift that I received from my friends and colleagues at the Psychological Services of Tel Aviv University. In the last 15 years, I have been interested in photographing psychotherapists' offices while studying these unique spaces that are part of the therapeutic process. In 2008, I presented some of my photographs of Israeli psychotherapists' offices in an exhibition at Tel Aviv University. My interest in this subject was the incentive that led to this retirement gift, a miniature 34 by 24 by 24 centimeters, a first reconstructed colored three-dimensional model of Sigmund Freud's office in Vienna, Berggasse 19, where he practiced psychoanalysis for almost half a century. This room, located in his house, is the birthplace of psychoanalysis. On March 1938, Austria was annexed by Nazi Germany. The Nazis regarded psychoanalysis as a Jewish science and persecuted its practitioners. Following this, on June 1938, Sigmund Freud, his wife, his daughter Anna, and the housekeeper all left Vienna for London. Shortly before their departure, Edmund Engelmann, a young Jewish photographer, accepted the request of the psychoanalyst and friend of Freud, August Hirschhorn, to make a secret photographic record of Freud's living and working environment. At great personal risk, since the house was already under the surveillance of the Gestapo, he made a historical set of 150 black and white photographs of Freud's office, study, and apartment. Engelmann's photographs are the only visual record of Freud's living and working quarters in Vienna. The miniature you see here was constructed on the basis of Engelmann's photographs and notes with the kind help of Freud museums in London and Vienna. With the help of influential friends from all over the world, almost all the house and the office content, including thousands of objects, books, and a vast collection of art and antiques, were secretly transported to Freud's new residence in Marsfield Gardens, London, where he kept working for one more year until his death from cancer in 1939 at the age of 83. Freud's office was crowded with artistic and archaeological artifacts from the roots of culture, which he collected throughout his life. Pursuing and collecting them was one of Freud's greatest passions. His archaeological and cultural interests inspired his broad, deep thinking and writings about the human psyche and about civilization. Freud lived and worked for many decades, surrounded and inspired by these reminders of human culture. I will present to you some of the many items of his collection, seen here in the miniature, that shed light on his widespread areas of interest and knowledge. At the center, you can see the first and famous psychoanalytic couch, piled high with pillows, so that the patients would be in a near-sitting position. The couch is covered with a Persian Shiraz rug. At the foot of the couch are some blankets, so that the patients could cover themselves in the winter. Another rug hangs on the wall, and other oriental rugs cover the floor and the table at the left. To the right, at the corner, you can see a ceramic tile stove with water tubes that were refilled to humidify the room. A warm, cozy, and comfortable atmosphere surrounded and enveloped both the patient and Freud in the room. To the left, behind the couch, you can see Freud's armchair with its footstool. This is how the traditional sitting arrangement of the psychoanalytic therapy was set. The patient is in a half-sitting position, out of the psychoanalyst's sight. Freud explained that the reason for this particular arrangement was to spare him from having to endure the analysant's gaze for the long hours of his daily practice. Furthermore, as he added later, it was the best way to allow the analysant to free associate without being influenced by the psychoanalyst's gaze. Here you can see a marble statue of a head known as the Good Citizen. It was created during the reign of Augustus, the emperor who turned the Roman state into a fully organized empire. Intelligence and moderation characterizes the steady nature of the good citizen. Freud placed the head statue on a pedestal next to his chair so that both he and the good citizen looked towards the etching of the Roman Forum created in 1923 by Luigi Casimir, located on the left side of the wall. The Roman Forum has been for centuries the center of Roman social, commercial and political life. The Forum today is an archaeological excavation attracting millions of tourists, among them was Freud. He saw archaeology, the discovering of what had been buried, as symbolic of his psychoanalytic work. To the right of the couch you can see a group of 3 pictures. This is a photograph of Dr. Ernst von Fleischl, a close friend and colleague of Freud. As a young neurologist, Freud believed that cocaine had many anesthetic and beneficiary effects on several physical and mental ailments. He used it himself and recommended it to many of his close relatives. Among them was Dr. Fleischl, who was addicted to morphine. Freud recommended that he substitute cocaine to morphine, a decision he painfully regretted for many years to come, as Dr. Fleischl became severely addicted to cocaine and died at the age of 44. Only much later did Freud recognize the danger of addiction to cocaine. Here to the right is a plaster cast of the Gradiva, the girl who steps along, adorned with a dried papyrus plant. This is a copy of a Roman bas-relief which was an inspiration for the novel Gradiva by Wilhelm Jönsson. The story it tells is about Hanold, an archaeologist who buried a significant part of his past, his love for Zoe. When he visits Pompeii, the city that had disappeared under volcanic ashes and was later rediscovered, and stands in front of the figure of the Gradiva, the past reappears in a dreamlike experience. The novel inspired Freud to write the essay Delusion and Dream in Jönsson's Gradiva. Below, you can see a reproduction of a painting by Ingres, Oedipus and the Sphinx, from 1808. In Sophocles' tragedy, Oedipus the king, the Sphinx is a female monster with the body of a lion, breasts and a head of a woman, and an eagle's wings. She was sent to the town of Thebes as punishment for some ancient crime and devoured all those who failed to solve her riddle. Who walks in the morning on 4, at noon on 2, and in the evening on 3? Many have failed until Oedipus solved the riddle. It is men from infancy to old age. As a result, defeated by Oedipus, the Sphinx destroyed herself in despair by falling off a mountainside. Sophocles' tragedy inspired Freud in the creation of one of the central cornerstones of the psychoanalytic theory, the Oedipus complex. Oedipus saved Thebes from the Sphinx threat, but he could not escape his own destiny and the unavoidable predetermined chain of events. His killing of Laios, his father, his marriage to his mother Jocasta, her suicide when she realized what had happened, and his blinding himself after he understood what he had unknowingly done. The centrality of the Oedipal tragedy in Freud's thinking is an illustration of Freud's deterministic view regarding a tragic aspect of human existence. To the right of the stove, a print of an etching of the great Egyptian Sphinx of Giza near the pyramids by Hugo Ulbricht from 1905. The Sphinx in the Giza version is the protector and gatekeeper of the pyramids, a role quite different from that of the Sophoclean Sphinx. Above the couch hangs a color print of an etching created by Ernst Kerner in 1906. This is the Egyptian cliff temple of Ramses II at Abu Simbel in Luxor, Egypt, dated from the 13th century BC. This is one of many expressions of Freud's interest in father figures from the ancient past who strongly influenced their people's destiny. A small door, almost inconspicuous, can be seen close to the room's entrance. This door led to Freud's own medical room, where his doctor, Max Schur, treated him almost daily for cancer of the palate, which had afflicted him at the age of 66. During the last 15 years of his life, Freud underwent 33 surgeries, but continued his work almost until the end of his life. This door also enabled patients who wanted to ensure their privacy to leave without returning to the waiting room and encounter other patients. Placed on the left side of this table, you can see two Kiddush cups. Kiddush is a Jewish practice that Freud and his family did not follow. Nevertheless, and in spite of being a committed agnostic, he never denied his Judaism. He was a member of B'nai B'rith, whose meetings he attended for many years, and had many Jewish colleagues, friends, and students. Many of them emigrated before the war and spread psychoanalysis outside Europe. Another interesting item related to Judaism is Rembrandt's portrait of Rabbi Menashe ben Israel, who had a crucial part in the readmission of the Jews to England after being expelled in the 13th century. The rabbi persuaded Oliver Cromwell to re-establish the Jewish community. Ironically, almost 300 years later, Freud himself found shelter in England with the purpose, as he wrote, to die in freedom. On the front wall, not seen in the miniature, hung a small lithographic version of the famous painting Une leçon clinique à la Salpêtrière by André Brouillet from 1887. This lithograph, created by Eugène Piraudon in 1888, hung on the wall of Freud's office in Vienna in front of him for almost half a century. Freud deeply admired Dr. Charcot since the time he had attended his clinical lessons on hypnosis in Paris as a young student, and regarded him as a most important teacher and as a profound influence on his creation of the talking cure. He also named his eldest son Jean Martin after Jean Martin Charcot. During Freud's last year of life in London, Piraudon's lithograph was relocated above the patient's couch. Notice here a rather out-of-place, curious little object, a water bowl for Freud's beloved dogs, which were seemingly also present during some of the psychoanalytic sessions. The creation of this unique miniature was initiated and conducted by Shmulik Michelson, a friend and colleague from the psychological services of Tel Aviv University. Based on his research, the miniature was constructed by the art miniaturist Gucci Pearl in 2013. I would like to thank all my friends and colleagues from the Psychological Services of Tel Aviv University, directed by Alberto Mesciani, and the staff of Dean of Student Services, especially Tali Nevo, for her devoted assistance. All of you gave me a precious and meaningful gift that I love and cherish. Thank you.